back to Allergylicious, and today it's a little bit warmer outside, and so that has me thinking maybe we'll do something different. We're going to bring out some berries and do a sweet treat that's not chocolate because, you know, even though I love chocolate, we're going to veer away from that a little bit, and I know you're going to absolutely love what we have for you today. So just as a quick recap, all of our recipes are vegan and allergy friendly. So there's no dairy, no eggs, no nuts. It's also, most of them are also gluten-free, and today's recipe is again gluten-free. So we are going to get started. This is a super easy recipe. You're only going to need one food processor. If you have something like this, if you have a blender that possibly has the food processing tools, that works as well. You can even just whip it up in your hand mixer if that's easier for you too. So let's get started. We are going to start with some gluten-free flour. I've told you before, pick whichever kind you like. I like to use a 1-for-1, which basically means 1 cup of flour, regular, like all-purpose flour, is equal to 1 cup of this. If you use your own flour, you might have to use xanthan gum, and so that might be an addition that you need to add to this recipe. But take that in mind, whatever one you choose, okay? So we're going to just go ahead and put this in the processor. And we are going to add our butter. This is vegan butter. Now, if you are not vegan or you don't do dairy-free, you use whatever butter you choose. I use one called Earth Balance, but again, they have a vegan option, they have a soy-free option, and that's the one that I typically use. So that's going to go in here. Then we have our sugar. If you didn't know, sugar is not always vegan, and so just make sure that yours does say vegan if you're going to choose that. Otherwise, use it to your discretion. I'm using the turbinado sugar. It's, as you can see, it's a bigger grain, but this will still cook down amazingly well. But you can use regular granulated vegan sugar. Don't use brown sugar because this is going to be more like a shortbread base. And so we don't want it to get that brown color. We want it to be light and white and fluffy. And so this is going to do the job for us. And then we have our pinch of salt. So just a little bit of sea salt. And that's recipe right there. That's going to make your shortbread. So we are just going to pulse this up. Okay, you can see there's a beautiful crumble on here. And that is going to be our base. Can you see that right there? Perfect. So that's exactly what we're going for. So what we are going to do, we're just going to set this aside, and we need to save about a cup of this because we're going to use this also as our top of the crumble part. So if you think of something like a biscuit or like a cobbler and you put that flour crumble on top, that's exactly what we're going to do with this as well. So I'm just going to repurpose one of these bowls and just add a little bit in here. And you can measure it, or you can just kind of think about what you average a cup size if you know what it is. I know to me that's about a cup, so I'm just going to set that aside. And then what we're going to do is bring out our pan. Now I already have a parchment paper lined in here, and that's exactly what we need. And so that way it's going to cook down, it's going to be easier to pull out. And all I'm going to do is add this shortbread mix into this pan. And because that butter has already been incorporated into here, that's going to make it where we can press it down into a nice base. And that's pretty much it. So we're just going to go ahead with your clean hands, push this down. And then we're going to cook this. We're going to bake this at about 350 degrees. It's going to get baked for a little bit, probably about 18 minutes. And then the hardest part is going to be waiting, because we have to wait for this to cool just slightly before we put on our next layer. We just don't want the jelly or jam, whichever you're going to use, we don't want that to melt into it too much quite yet. And so that's going to be like the next step. So once it's nice and patted down, just make sure your ends are also patted tightly. That's your shortbread base. So we're just going to go ahead and pop this into oven, and then I'll be back in just a moment when you see what this looks like until we put on the next layer. Okay guys, now that we have this beautiful crust is out of the oven, we're going to bake it a little bit more, but we're kind of partially baking it until we can get this jelly on top. And so you can use jelly, jam, whatever your favorite is. I like to use this organic blend, so it's like a multi-berry blend, which is my favorite, but you can use grape, you can use berries, pick your choosing. I actually had a strawberry jalapeno one that I almost did, but I wasn't quite sure how that was going to turn out, and I know this one works great, so that's what we're going to do. So really what we're going to do is we are just going to add this topping on here, and we're just going to spread this around. We just want to make sure it gets to all the corners, and this is going to be our middle layer. Now on the blog, I actually have another recipe that's similar, but we use fresh fruit in that, and we use a graham cracker base. I also have one that I use with different kinds of fresh berries, and it's using a gluten-free oat crust, and that one is just as amazing. So if you're looking for some delicious gluten-free berry baked bars, there are several for you to choose from. Okay, so if you can see here, I will show you real quick. This is our second layer, just jelly or jam all around the top. And then what we're going to do is we are taking the leftovers that we have. Remember, we measured about a cup of the base earlier, and we just set it aside. And that's what we're going to use for our crumble. So clean hands in your own home. Obviously, that's probably what's going to work best. We are just going to spread this around. You're going to sprinkle it. Make sure you get all the corners. And this is going to bake out to be nice and toasted and just, I mean, this is delicious. You guys are going to love this. It's light, it's refreshing, it's perfect for spring and summer. It's easy to bring to any kind of gathering and get together. It's a pretty display, so it's not just like your typical cookies or chocolate bars. This is just going to be a nice fruity dessert, and that's it. We are going to go ahead and put this back into the oven. We're going to cook it for 30 minutes, and then we'll be back to show you what this looks like. We just pulled this out of the oven. Actually, I had it sitting in the freezer for a few minutes just so that we could do this next up. Typically, you want to let this sit in the refrigerator for about 3 hours. It gives it the chance for the shortbread to kind of firm up better. But since we don't want to lose any light, and I wanted to show you the final product before it got too late, where hopefully it won't be too crumbly right now. Okay, so here's what it looks like. And because we put this parchment paper underneath, what that allows me to do is to pull this out a little bit easier instead of fussing. And now I can cut it into the perfect size squares. Now if you ever have any issues with, never having an evenly spaced one, you could always use a card, like a playing card, and put those on there just to kind of measure it out. For me, I'm okay with having it a few different sizes. It's always the fight in the kitchen to see who gets the bigger square. So we're just going to cut these like so. And you can even make these smaller. For me, we just like to make these into like big 9 squares. But you can even make them into like more bite-sized pieces. But there you have it. Shortbread, beautiful berry jam, and then that crumbly topping on top. Then you just go ahead and plate it. And guys, this is like an easy, healthy dessert. You can even grab a little bit of it for breakfast. I mean, it's so good. Your family's going to love this. Your guests are going to love this. It's delicious. It's easy to make. Make it in one bowl. And it's allergy friendly. It's vegan, gluten-free, no nuts are in it, And look, oh, I got the centerpiece and it's gonna be messy. I'm gonna take a bite because today I don't have a guest to bite for me, so. You guys are going to love this. Even being warm and crumbly, it's still absolutely delicious, but give it a couple hours in the fridge and it's gonna be even better. So this recipe is on the blog. There's a link down below where you can get the full recipe with the printable. There's other more allergy-friendly, vegan, and gluten-free recipes on there. And so until next time, here's to more sweet treats and vegan eats.